Good morning. My name is Maeve Knoth, and I am stepping in with very little notice, honestly, for Reverend Brian this morning. I am currently a librarian in an elementary school in Menlo Park, and I've worked in other schools and in the public library for many, many years. So I'm going to start out the reflection by reading to you a frequently banned book. You won't be able to see the pictures from where you are, but you don't need to necessarily. Just you'll get the idea that they are very clean, simple cartoons with a lot of white space around them. That's the idea. The book is called Worm Loves Worm by J.J. Austrian, illustrated by Mike. And so they were married because worm loves worm. So, in addition to being a librarian in a school, I've worked in other schools, and I've worked in the public library for many, many years. I write book reviews for the Horn Book, which is the oldest magazine in the country dedicated to children's literature, and I've served on several Children's Book Award committees. And I need to say up front, I don't like many of the books out there being published and sold. I have a shelf at home devoted to my bad book collection that's on a high shelf, a shelf that used to be out of reach of our children so that they couldn't ask me to read them Love You Forever. Maybe you know that book. I find it to be incredibly creepy, designed with postpartum, hormone-flooded, sleepless new moms in mind. The theme of the book is, never fear. Oftentimes, all this sacrifice is worth it because when you are old and decrepit, your kid will take care of you. Yuck. I tell you all this because it is Banned Books Week, a week promoted by the American Library Association and PEN America to bring attention to the incredible rise and danger of banning books. Do I want you to read Love You Forever? Nope. At the very best, it's a waste of time. Do I want you to buy it as a baby shower gift? Nope, again. Will I stop you? No. Will I purchase it for my school library? No, that's selection, not censorship. I have limited shelf space, and I serve a limited age range, and Love You Forever is not geared toward elementary school students. Did I purchase it for the 13 San Mateo County libraries when I was responsible for all those children's collections? Absolutely yes. Patrons looked for it, and we worked to have a wide breadth of books for all kinds of families. Banning books is not the same as selection. It is taking books that have been selected by professionals away from all readers. It's not putting them on a high shelf in the laundry room, as I did for my kids. It's taking them off the high shelf and getting rid of them entirely, taking them away from your kids and your grandkids, everyone else's grandkids, scholars, senior citizens, artists, and the entire diversity of humanity that we call the public. But if, as I said, there are so many books out there, then why get all worked up about the few that are flashpoints now? It comes down to what Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, who's one of the gods in children's literature, coined as windows and mirrors. Who shows up in the books in our schools and libraries? Who borrows these books? Who needs to see themselves or needs to develop empathy for someone else? What books were your mirrors? You might all be able to think of a book that when you read it as a young person, you thought, oh, that's me. For me, that book was Cheaper by the Dozen. I grew up with 7 siblings, and I didn't know many other large families, but when I read Cheaper by the Dozen, there were so many things I recognized from my own life. Last spring, one of my students, a new student, a 2nd grader, he is a Sikh, and he wears his long hair up and covered by a patka. He noticed when 2 books featuring Sikh boys were standing up, face out, on display. He didn't borrow the books. He didn't have to because he told me he owns both of them already. But he pointed to them and he said, Mrs. Knoth, I know that book. Hey, and I know that book too. He felt represented and worthy of one of our precious face-out display spots. As for windows, maybe you remember a book that showed you something you didn't know anything about. I personally loved reading the All of a Kind Family series of books. They're set in the early 1900s in the tenements of New York City, and the family are conservative Jews. From those books, I learned all my Jewish holidays and traditions so that I could understand why a classmate missed school for Yom Kippur. But more importantly, I learned that the family members were not so different from me, even though our holidays and traditions were completely different. I learned empathy. That Jewish family was worthy of my attention and my care. That doesn't seem like such a dangerous idea around here, but there are places in the country and times in history when showing empathy for a Jewish family does seem dangerous or undesirable. How can we vilify one group if we see them as humans? These same books, Cheaper by the Dozen and All of the Kind Family, must have struck other readers entirely differently. Maybe only children learned something about what it's like to have lots of brothers and sisters. Maybe a Jewish reader saw himself in All of a Kind Family thinking, wow, my family dresses up for Purim too. I'm not the only one. In the 1990s, I added Heather Has Two Mommies to the library where I worked. It's a pretty mediocre book, actually, and my reviewer self had a tough time. But it was the best that we had at that time as we built library collections to better reflect the many family structures that we saw in the world around us. Luckily, that book was the first of an ever-improving list of books about gay parents. If you're a reader who has never known anyone personally with two moms, that book might be an important window, a way to gain some valuable empathy. And it was a flashpoint. Adults worried that their children might get used to same-sex marriage, might not vilify or ostracize children with two moms or two dads. Turns out, they were right, it actually helped. Gay parents are worthy of our respect. They're not so scary after all. And that is what is fueling these book bans today. Brian was going to use 2 slides, so I'll let you see the first one, just to get a sense of what's happening in book banning right now. There is lots of data on that, and you can actually find the graphic at the American Library Association or at PEN America. But the second slide is more interesting. Take a look at this slide for a moment and look at these most challenged books. Who do these book banners not want to feel seen? Who do they not want readers to build empathy for? It's the LGBTQ community, it's transgender teens, it's youth who have faced rape or abuse. Are these all top quality literature? Actually, it doesn't matter. Imagine being that teen who's wondering if you have any worth. And in the thousands of books in your school library, you can't find yourself anywhere? Or imagine growing up in an environment in which you never learn empathy for that classmate struggling with their gender identity. We are selling children and teens short if we don't let them learn about others, if we don't give them windows. And we are failing children and youth if we don't give them any mirrors either. The RE students in my class are memorizing our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. And I'm proud to say they are totally solid with the first one. Respect the importance and value of every person. If I believe this, I have to prominently display books that feature the full range of us. And we all have to let light into our schools and libraries, building them with plenty of windows and plenty of mirrors.